Hello guys, welcome to a new video, and yeah, probably surprising, second live stream within 24 hours, very rare for me, but I thought I'd want to talk about a few topics I didn't talk about in yesterday's live stream. So, topic for this live stream I think is Commander investments, game theory and all that jazz, and that's what we're going to base today's video around. And to start off with, I'm just going to send out a few farmers, make the most of the resource gathering right now. And yeah, don't know how everyone else is. Sunday's going. Been a very chill day for me. Yeah, just chill day off. Then I'm back to work for the next 4 days. And after we've sent the last farmer, let's get a few extra jimmies. And yeah, I've just been watching War Daddy Chaz live stream today. The last hour or so, he's been streaming the 1093 KVK. That seems to be going probably a lot longer than we expected it to. Both sides fighting hard in 1093 are trying to drop all those dead power right now to also get the extra migrants with the new migration system and point system. So let's have a quick nosy at how 1093 is doing, make sure we find the right one. So it'll be this map. I believe they're still flagging into the middle right now. And the bottom part as well. I think last night on stream it was up to about here, maybe a bit higher, but they seem to be digging down a lot more on this side right now. Let's change it to fire camp, and nothing's burning down there yet, but they seem to be focusing a lot more on this side, it seems. Yeah, some old flag burns down here. So this hasn't really changed up here either. Mainly just trying to secure the Zig, I would assume. And then I think in the coming days you'll start seeing them starting to flag towards these two passes over here and just finish up Kingsland. And that's that. So to start off with this video, I wanted to talk more towards like the newer players and what you should be doing, investing in commanders wise. And I thought a live stream would be the best way to kind of try and explain this, and if people have any questions they can put it into the live chat and I'll answer them. So to start with, we've got the KVK2 and KVK1 commanders, which commanders are viable in the end game. So you got YSG would be one of probably the top 3 or 4 commanders that's worth the gold head investments that you can use into KVK3 and beyond. YSG is really nice with that higher skill damage, circular AoE. The only thing that is missing is the march speed, which is why if I was to recommend the best pairing for YSG when you hit KVK3, it would probably be to get the Herman Prime and pair him with the YSG because you've got that extra march speed. And then you would try your best probably with the armaments as well to be picking up the extra march speed on your archers. Try and make this march as fast as possible. You'll be doing higher skill damage, helping out your allies as well. And then if you wanted to go down the cavalry route, you've got Minamoto, but unfortunately he is a bit of a spending whale commander, but you could still use him maybe as a 5-5-1-2 commander, which I believe costs about, I want to say $100 maybe at most. And also I did this personally like years ago. Saladin is a decent option as well from KvK2. I think I was personally running Nevsky with Saladin for a while in like KvK, probably my second KvK4, and it's a decent march. Like, got decent skill damage, can slow the target, got a lot of tankiness as well. So he's a decent option, especially if you're kind of fighting like a D seed or C seed KvK. Being able to run Saladin behind like a Huo or Nevsky or Joan is decent for transitioning into the end game. I wouldn't personally invest in Double C or Richard. Martel is okay, but I wouldn't put loads of gold heads into him. But he can work with Luce if you don't invest into Alex and you want someone to pair with your Luce. Then you could run your Martel, or if I scroll down a bit, where is he? Yeah, Pyrus also a decent investment option to run with your Luce in KvK3. But he's doing a lot of normal damage bonuses, got okay direct damage, normal damage bonus 20%, so that's going to be working with your Luce pretty well. And then you got this attack bonus as well. This also helps with normal damage bonuses. Shielding makes you a little bit more sustained in the open field. So yeah, I'd say probably like the top 3 or 4 commanders in the early game, which will help you transition into the later game, would be your YSG. Pyrus is a decent shout. Mehmed is also a strong shout if you get a 5-5-1-1 Mehmed, doing 1550 damage, up to 5 enemies. Extra skill damage as well towards the Gasms, it doesn't really do anything. Then you got the attack bonus and the skill damage bonus, which is really nice behind like a cavalry commander, is usually what people pair him with in like KvK3. So you'd run him behind like a Nevsky, and then you get a bit of extra AoE and skill damage bonuses. Or a Huo as well is also a very strong shout. So Mehmed, YSG, and then obviously the other one we haven't spoken about yet would be the Alex, which would be a really strong shout as well. Doing a lot of shielding factor, strong shielding factor, got attack and defense bonuses as well. The really strong factor in his kit is the they're 1700 to the target and reduce the target's healing by 30% for 5 seconds. Obviously the healing is not really the massive thing unless you're going to be targeting the new archer commanders, and potentially this has a bit more viability right now. Very high march speed, high attack bonuses. This is all based on whether you're shielding or not. Most of the time you probably won't be shielded, so you'll have the attack bonus probably more often than the defense bonus. And yeah, if I had to rank the 4 commanders that I would recommend from the earlier game, it would probably be probably the YSG, slightly above the Alex, just because you get the extra barb chaining component to him as well, so you can use him when you're barb chaining to get extra speed ups and gems and all that. You can't really do that with Alex. The only alternative would be that you can get a low skill Zhuge Liang, which will perform probably as good as YSG, if not better. And Alex is very strong with Loot Tray right now, and unless you want to invest the 700 gold heads into William Wallace, then having an Alex in the early game is probably a better investment that way. And then some of the honourable mentions would be Constantine is still decent in Canyon. If we look at some of the others, obviously Mulan still has a place in Canyon, mainly with your Trajan if you're going to invest in him. CJ is okay, but I wouldn't invest any gold heads into him. Same with Bagnar. I think Thutmose is another very underappreciated commander in the early game, and he's a lot newer. And he has the 1000 damage factor up to 3 enemies. Reduces the healing received, so another healing reducing commander. Good bonuses, etc. Defense bonus, counter attack reduction, extra direct damage factor. And the main reason why Thutmose is still pretty strong in the end game, if you're going to transition, is because he has huge amounts of stats in his relics. So he has up to 3 relics here. And then he goes up to, 45% attack and 20% defense, which is a lot of stats for archers. So I think Thutmose is a decent archer alternative if you didn't want to go for YSG, even though I think YSG is still way better than Thutmose if you wanted an archer in the earlier game. Alice also really strong because obviously he's got the 20% infantry defense, 6% normal damage reduction. Saladin's got a nice little relic as well if you had to run him. Minamoto is strong even if you're spending because you've got the 60% of stats from his relics. And that is that. So I think if you're going to be transitioning from like KVK 2 to KVK 3, and more importantly KVK 4, just because in KVK 3 you don't have the archer commanders until after all the fighting is finished in KVK 3. So more focus on KVK 4 transition. If you wanted a commander pair for each of the troop types, I would recommend either Joan or Huo to pair with your Mehmed or Minamoto for Cav March. More likely Joan, just because Joan has a bit more longevity with her AoE and double cast of her active skill. If you were to go down the route of infantry, you would use your Loot Tray Alex, but alternatively you could use a 5-5-1-1 Pyrus if you were saving towards William Wallace later down the road. And then for your archers, you would prioritize Herman and YSG. There is a shout to be made, you could run Zhuge Liang with a YSG, but I think the problem with Zhuge Liang is he just doesn't have any march speed. So he has high skill damage factor, damage reduction, huge health stats, but he just has no march speed in his kit. And the problem with the game right now, when everyone is running in dot mode and everyone's targeting archer commanders, you need archer commanders that are going to have decent march speed, because you've got to be able to run away from the opponent. If you're a younger account, you don't have the equipment, so I would recommend Herman Prime personally over your Hugh. to pair with your YSG if that is the route you want to go down. Just pick up some of my ornaments. So yes, that's my idea on what you should invest in. Just ignore me. Another thing to talk about would be how do you then transition from the earlier game to the later game? Should you run multiple marches, etc.? I think there's some commanders that are still very used in the game that are very risky investments right now. Like Guan Yu, you've got the new Ragnar Prime that's going to be coming out very soon. That's going to probably pair very well with the Scipio Africanus. So Guan's going to be pulling out the meta very soon, unfortunately. I think if you wanted to run 5 marches, the best 5 march configuration would probably be a 2-2-1 configuration, which would be 2 infantry, 2 cavalry, and 1 archer. But you could probably argue that it would be 1 cavalry and 2 archers, just because cavalry are struggling a bit with the meta right now. You've got 4 or 5 strong cavalry commanders like Nevsky, Huo, William, Joan, and that's probably a Belisarius as well. And then your best cavalry march will be argued to be Huo with Nevsky, or Huo with Joan, or Nevsky Joan, which is what I personally run. And then you're either going to have to run one of the other commanders with Belisarius in a 5 march lineup, and you'll make the most out of his all damage buff on the enemy, on Belisarius' expertise. But I think infantry you definitely want to be running 2 marches of, more so than the other commanders, especially with Ragnar Prime coming out. So you want to be running your Luce Alex or your Luce William, whichever one you prefer. Personally, I prefer the Luce Alex just because it's a lot faster, but William works probably a bit better with the damage factor. And then you've got your Guan Yu, your Scipio, which is still a strong march, especially with the Guan Yu relic. But you could run the new Ragnar Prime with Scipio as well. Alternatively, you could even run like a Sargon potentially, which I don't personally have worked on. Yeah, I think the new Ragnar Prime with Sargon is going to be quite strong for infantry, is my hypothesis. Especially if you're running like 3 infantry marches, this is going to be a pretty strong march. And you take your Tariq off your Sargon, and then you replace it with Ragnar. I think that's going to be really strong. And then if you go in towards the archers, which I will do this. So the strongest archers that you'd currently want to run in the game would be either a combination of YSG, Boudica, Zhuge Liang, Ash, Shijar, and Hermit Prime, which I don't personally have worked on. And I would say the best single archer march would be your Zhuge Liang with your Hermit Prime. I personally use Zhuge Liang for Canyon with Shijar, and this performs really well. But I think in the open field it's not quite good enough, and you do take a lot more set wounds. I think you can also run, obviously like I said earlier, you could run a Hermann Prime with YSG, and that's still a nice Archer March. Taking into consideration you do have the 2 or 3 relics for YSG on that march. I personally run Liang with Ash, and this is a high skill damage pairing, has a bit of march speed and when you're off territory, which is when you desperately need it with archers. So you got the 15% march speed with your Ash off territory, skill damage bonus, normal damage reduction, and then you've got the random stats on the expertise as well. I'm looking forward to personally trying out CY and Ash expertise in the open field. I think that will be pretty strong, and it'll be really strong I think in Canyon as well, because you're just going to have huge amounts of healing. You could also run Boudica with Zhu Yang, but I wouldn't say it's the best march ever, but it is a bit more budget friendly because you don't have to expertise the Boudica. You can just run the 5551 Boudica and this will be totally fine, and you'd run it as secondary to your Zhu Liang because the rage engine is actually a lot more important than the slightly more tankiness on Boudica Prime. Henry's a decent option in the open field as well if you're lacking some of the other commanders. And yeah, that's what my recommendation would be. Obviously, alternatively, you could run a ranged commander in your 5 march lineup or beyond. So engineering. I'm personally working on Garjamada, but if you wanted high skill damage or smite damage at range, you'd run your Margaret with Cordoba, and this is the highest range damage in the game right now for ranged. Personally, I'll probably do Garja with Cordoba, so it has slightly less damage output, but Garjamada is just really tanky, so you're sustained in the open field. And yeah, just some recommendations for you guys. I think moving forward, cavalry in particular are a bit of a risky investment right now, and you could say that with the ranged commanders as well. We should be getting ranged commanders probably within the next 30 days, and we'll probably start hearing about the ranged commanders straight after the next MG, when this is the last Archer MG and Will for the new release. So we'll probably find out about the new leadership commander and the engineering commanders straight after that, and I think that'll be like decent depending on what the leadership commander is. Most likely it will be a garrison commander for leadership, and my personal hypothesis, if you've watched one of my other videos, is that it's going to be a healing based leadership commander that's going to work really well with the new archer commanders, because the new archer commanders don't really have the strongest pairings right now that does healing in the garrison, so it makes sense. Because obviously, like with the other commanders, they all had natural pairings already in the game, but with the archers, it's just a completely new mechanic that Lilith's trying to go down. And then if you go after that release, you're going to be coming to the cavalry release, which a lot of speculation right now is that it's going to be about combo attacks for the cavalry because of the new formation that's being added into the game fairly recently. Let's go into Codex. So yeah, the new formation for the Delta has very strong armaments, and so the theory is that infantry and cavalry have their own mechanics now in the game. So cavalry are probably going to have their own thing added into the game, and the only thing that's missing right now is the combo attack specialist unit type, which is most likely going to be the Cavs. Hollow Square, let's look at that. Best damage. I guess Hollow Square doesn't really need its own troop type to specialize in, because you can throw on any garrison. And I think the Hollow Square does a lot of shielding factor as well, which is really strong against. If you're going to pair a Cav garrison with Hera, for instance, or an Archer garrison with Hera, you can technically use the Hollow Square formation and do really well. What else did I? Oh yeah, the formations currently. Obviously, everyone's working mainly on the wedge formation at the moment, or the arch formation, because they do 5% more skill damage or 5% more normal damage. And then we're slowly starting to work on a circle formation for the players that want to invest in the new archer commanders, because the circle formation and the testudo formation, which will work really well with Hera, are going to be a lot more required for those archer players moving forward. And my recommendation for a lot of players is to be pulling for arch or wedge, but probably more particularly arch formation, just because wedge is starting to be phased out a bit with the new commander releases. So the arch formation will benefit the other mechanics that are being added into the game. Even combo attacks will get benefits from the normal damage increase. The wedge formation, any skill damage per commander is going to be doing normal damage in the white numbers and the counter attack, and this is all going to improve with the arch formation buff and some of the ornaments that they have. So the arch formation is a lot more future proof for people to invest in over the wedge formation. But obviously wedge formation is still very viable. It's just you don't really want to be pulling for like infantry really from the wedge formation, and you don't want to be pulling for siege either. Whereas with the arch, like, you can make an archer set, you can make a cav set, you can make an infantry set, and it will still do well with the arch formation. And you can get also the health buffs with the inscriptions, the attack buff. The same with the wedge, it's just you're not getting the 5% skill damage, you're getting the 5% normal damage. So, and also a lot of these skill damage commanders as well, they again, or hidden commanders, they're doing normal damage buffs as well. So then the arch formation with the new archers is still going to be fairly viable if you don't want to invest in a new formation type at this time, which I don't really blame players. But I've slowly started trying to build my circle formation just because I'm personally going to be a archer garrison. But as you can see, like, the stats are all over the place, the armaments, like the inscriptions aren't the greatest at this time. And we can have a quick overview on the equipment. So with the legendary ranged equipment, obviously this is all the best ranged equipment that you're going to want for your ranged archers. but you could alternatively run the Harvester set for your ranged, or the Forest Guardian set, and I've heard based on Mr. Siege's videos that even the blue Harvester set works really well with ranged commanders, because you're getting a load of defense, a load of health, a load of attack for your ranged commanders. You just don't have the march speed, which you could argue is more valuable than the stats. Then you got the Cav set, so I would recommend at least the 2-piece set for Cavs, but you could run 4-piece set, and then you won't want to run the 6-piece, because you want to run the Ash of the Dawn and a Navarre control, so you want to run maximum 4-piece set on your Cav set. And then with your infantry, you want to run maximum 4-piece set, but you could get away with only with no of the equipment sets if you didn't want the march speed. And so you'd run the KVK weapon and helmet for infantry, and then you'd run the Hope Cloak and the Eternal Night for the chest and legs, and then you'd run the Sacred Grips and Shooter's Boots to finish off the set, and you wouldn't have any of these. But if you wanted to run a 4-piece set because you want the set bonus march speed, which is probably going to be really nice with the new Ragnar Prime, because he doesn't have the biggest march speed and you want to stay connected to your target, then you'd make sure you don't have this piece or the legs, and you'd keep your Hope Cloak and your Navarre's control. If you're running a smite based commander, you could argue you'd want the attack stats, and you'd actually want to go for the 4-piece set down here, and then you'd want the KVK weapon, the KVK helmet if you're going to run a smite based commander pairing, because you want the extra attack stats, which is going to improve your normal damage numbers, which means you're going to do more damage with your smite based commanders. So that's just a few helping tips depending on what sort of infantry you want to run in the open field. And then for the archers, you'd want to run either the full 6-piece set, because it's going to give you the skill damage and extra health stats down here. Alternatively, you could run the helmet and weapon for the KVK pieces, and then you could run, I think it's the legs and boots for leadership, and then run 2-piece set for archers, which would be the chest and weapon. But I've also seen it run as well where I think it's the arms, you can swap the attack for defense on the leadership set, and people run the arms and I think it's the legs with the leadership set, and then they keep the archer set boots and the chest, so you run 2-2-2 with your archers. And then another alternative option, if you were going down your range route, you could run the leadership set, obviously outside the archers, but you want the health stats for. You could run a lot of these attack stats, troop types for your leadership, for your range commanders, and this could do really well as well. And then I'm just going to finish off this video because I know I haven't had too many people come into the chat today. But just talking about some game theory about where I think this game's going to be heading. Obviously the newest update is talking about getting resources back in KVKs, getting high level barbs in Home Kingdom, stories coming out every KVK. I just think that, especially with the new Age of Empires game, that's launched recently. It does seem that Lilith is working a lot harder to try and update the game and keep people invested in the game right now, which is really good to hear. I think they're gonna, based on the new infantry release they just did, which is obviously completely out of tune with their release cycle at the moment, I think they're gonna potentially throw in some extra commanders here and there. I know people wanted, like Omniarch, that a new commander would come to like the expedition potentially in the future, which I think would be a really nice idea. Like, suggestion to Lilith would be Ethel works quite well with like a Trajan in the open field, and everyone wants to see a leadership commander in the open field that can be paired with Trajan and be viable. So I think they should definitely add a leadership commander into Expedition, which is like a buffed version of Ethelfled that can perform really well with Trajan, and I think that would be really nice for Lilith to consider in the future. I hope that the next Cav release is going to be a bit better than the last Cav release, but the only concern with the combo attack route, if they decide to go down it, would be, is it going to work with the Nord based commanders of old, like your Attila and your Decadas, and so you actually have like a viable pairing for the new cavalry? Because if they're not going to do any skill damage, like, is the combo attack going to synergize with the commanders we have currently? They may not, or they might have like a skill damage component, like with Shajar, where she can do skill damage, but then she also has the healing as well. So maybe that's a route that they're going to go down in the future releases. Obviously infantry is going to most likely still stay smite in the future, but there's a possibility they could invest into more skill damaged commanders for infantry, maybe. I think they're probably going to still do that with archers, in my opinion, just because archers are so skill damage focused. So I think the next archer release is probably going to be skill damage / healing, but then I think after that it's going to be mainly like, it's going to be a mix of skill damage and healing based commanders, based on whether players are actually invested in a new healing mechanic or not. Or, because obviously everyone's seeing that the new archer commanders, again, a lot more set wounds in the open field, so they probably think that people aren't going to want to run healing archers in the open field because they're just going to get bigger hospitals, so they might just reserve it to garrisons potentially for archers, just because archers naturally haven't been garrison viable just because they're too squishy. And then obviously got the key story coming up this year. You're going to have another key story next year, which they said that they're going to keep doing each year, which means we're going to have a Ragnar type commander most likely releasing again at the end of next year. And I think that's probably going to be an archer or a cavalry based commander that's going to do skill damage rather than a natural new mechanic that Lilith's decided to add into the game. And I think the reason why they choose the skill damage for the infantry as well is because skill damage is a lot more universal in the game, so you can add a skill damage commander to any troop type and you can make that viable. There's no point adding an infantry smite commander that you can change its troop type in a KVK, but you can't really make it work with another troop type. Like, the only troop type you could make a smite based commander that's infantry work would be with cavalry, with the artillery, and then with archers you couldn't make it viable. So it does make sense that Lilith went down the skill damage route for this particular infantry commander. And yeah, that's just me giving a few ideas to you guys. If anyone has any topics of discussion or wants to see a new video idea, please comment in the comment section below, subscribe.